Hello, guys. How are you today? Anyway, welcome to my channel. It's so funny. I have a picture here of when I was very young. I was in my 30s. I had just given birth to my daughter about a year before that, or a year and a half. And we were on a trip to Hawaii. That picture with the little red outfit there was in front of a tree in Hawaii. Anyway, we went to Oahu, where you can find Waikiki or Honolulu. They're both there. Okay, so I am on day 9 of my no snacking challenge. For me, snacking has been my downfall because I snack too much. Or not that I snack too much, but rather that I snack on the wrong food. And to avoid the snacking, which turns into massive overeating, which turns into weight gain, I have decided to challenge myself and not snack. Now, I have an actual course that I teach, and this is the course. However, I am doing the course myself as well to iron out the kinks and also to get to know myself better. And I realize as I'm doing my course that I am becoming more self-aware of things that hold me back, which is kind of good because I think self-awareness is key to success. Keeping your head in the sand is not going to help because you aren't going to get anywhere. So, learning about myself has been eye opening. All right. In the challenge, you do get daily lessons and you read, things that I put down there. Here, I decided to quickly explain some of the lessons that we have, right? So for day 9, it is all about eating frequently. I mean, frequency. How many times should you eat if you want to build muscle mass? How many times should you eat if you suffer from some sort of type of metabolic damage? Or if you're doing IF, or just lifestyle. Okay, so this is quick. Everyone is different, correct? Every time someone asks me a question, most of the times my answer begins with, it depends, because it does depend. It depends on the person. It depends on their lifestyle. It depends on the nutritional requirement. It depends if they are healthy or are not healthy. For instance, if you are diabetic or you suffer from hypoglycemia or you have a disease that you got high blood pressure, let's just say, um, you can't really tell somebody what to eat unless you are a nutritionist or dietitian. Okay? You can give guidelines, of course, but you can't tell them what to eat. And I can't tell someone who's diabetic only eat 2 meals a day or do IF. It's beyond the scope of my practice. I'm sure you could do it under the supervision of a medical professional. People who have, hypoglycemia, they also cannot be without eating for too long because their blood sugar drops and they get dizzy and they get jittery and all kinds of things going on. People who have high blood pressure can't eat certain foods, right? Every time I go online and I see a diet plan, I see a lot of sausage, I see ham, beef jerky, because it has a high amount of protein. However, if you have high blood pressure, you cannot eat any of those things. Or rather, you could eat them if you want to, but they aren't going to help you with your disease. So, anyway, however, okay, if you want to build muscle mass, it's recommended that you eat anywhere from 3 to 6 times a day, and that each meal has at least 20 plus grams of protein. Okay. Some places may tell you 30 grams of protein. This girl that I know says 48 grams of protein, which I think is kind of excessive, especially when your body, I understand, can only process so much protein at a time. So I'm going to go for the 20 grams plus 20, 25, 30 grams of protein per meal. And the reason you eat more protein is because, of course, that is the building block for muscle for the most part, right? It has the amino acids that are needed so that the muscle can grow strong, healthy, and whatever it is that you want to do with it. Okay, so we're building on muscle mass. Make sure it's a higher protein, um, and around 3 to 6 per day. Like I said, you spread it out every 3 or 4 hours with at least 20 grams of protein, like I said before. For instance, you can do 8, 12, 4 p.m., and 8 p.m. as your eating schedule. And of course, everyone's different. If you work out harder, then maybe you want to eat more, depending on your goal, really. Because building muscle mass or building strength is so subjective to the person that wants to do it, right? Um, so that's just the way it is. Again, it depends on the person, but this is the basic guideline. Now, when someone who's suffering from metabolic damage, that is someone who is a yo-yo dieter, or someone who is on a low, low, low caloric diet, or someone who's on a low caloric diet and a really high exercise plan. You know who I'm talking about. Those people, I was like that myself at one time. I worked out 3 hours a day. I lost a lot of weight at that time. I'm not going to lie. I worked out 3 hours a day. I only ate no more than 1,200 calories a day, which by the time I finished, I was at a deficit um, really badly. Um, I stopped menstruating because it was too extreme. I I was gonna say I was like maybe uh, a pound away or a day away from becoming anorexic. My body was already showing signs where the damage was being done, um, where my body was basically starting to eat itself. Anyway, it was a long time ago, and I've come a long way. Okay, so people like that, people like myself at that time, and people even like me, recently too, with the overeating in my case. Um, when you mess with your metabolism and then it doesn't work properly, or it has some sort of, if you eat more, if you eat one piece of grain more, you gain weight and whatnot because your body is not in homeostasis, which is what the body wants to be. The body wants to be in balance at all times. That's all it wants. It wants to be in balance. So that's why if you give it too little bit of food, if you over exercise, your body will adapt in the only way it knows how, which is may cut down on your metabolism just to counteract the food intake that you have. Okay. It makes perfect sense if you think about it. The body is meant to survive and is meant to stay in balance. And it tries to do everything it can to match what you give it. This is why eating with deficits doesn't really work for the long term. It may work on a short term, but not long. And in my case, it created damage to my body. I will forever be at a high risk of osteoporosis. And that is basically every athlete out there, especially female. If you stop menstruating due to the fact of your high workout schedule, you may end up suffering from a higher risk of osteoporosis when you get older. It's the price you pay, right? Things you can do about it is like continue to work out, continue eating healthy, you know, calcium, things like that. Okay, so muscle mass every 3 to 6 hours. I'm sorry, every 3 to 6 meals, 3 to 6 meals a day, every 3 or 4 hours with at least 20 grams of protein. If you have a metabolic damage, such as yo-yo dieters or people who have really low carb, low caloric intake, um, the best thing for you would be, and it depends on what stage you are on. I can go into in depth in another session when it's just about that. But for now, I'm just going to grace you. I'm going to go over it real quickly. I'm not going to go too deep into details. But depending on which stage of metabolic damage you are at, in some cases, if you're at the most extreme stage, then at that stage there, you will have to cut down on your workouts and cut down on your food intake. But for other people, you would just have to eat more frequently, more regularly. Okay. You can still do 4 meals a day, but you have to be regular about it. You can do 3 meals a day, but you have to be regular about it, and you have to give yourself enough food in each meal. At the beginning, you may gain weight, but don't worry about it. If your body is not balanced yet, And when it comes into homeostasis, balance, it should even itself out. And you should practically, in most cases, get the weight that you gain and then some. That is for people who are eating less and not losing any weight. Anyway, if you have hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar, if you don't eat enough, you will get jittery, you could faint, you get brain fog, and all other things happen to you. So people like that, the best thing to do is to get into a regular eating program or a regular eating pattern, stick with it consistently forever. Your body will catch up, and then after it catches up and after everything goes fine, then you can play around with a little bit of numbers. You could do it slowly and let the body catch up, slowly and let the body catch up. And people call it reverse dieting. That's one name for it. People lose the weight and then they start to eat a little bit more, but you have to just control how you do it. It is time consuming, but it is 110% worth it, because you will get into a greater relationship with food and with your body, and your mental health will also improve. All right. Now, the other one is IF, right? Some people who eat, when to eat less frequently. Now, it's not when to eat less. So it's not about eating less, but it's about eating at less times. I hope that makes sense. It's about eating less frequently, right? So for people who do IF, intermittent fasting, people who do intermittent fasting, they pick a time. Let's just say 16:8. That means they spend 16 hours where they do not eat and 8 hours where they do. However, the secret to intermittent fasting is that you have to eat enough in those 8 hours. Okay. You cannot do low caloric restriction on IF because it will not work. I'm saying it very slow so you can get it. You should not do caloric restriction when you are doing anything, but mostly when you are doing IF. So you are eating less frequently, but you aren't necessarily eating less food. Of course, you're not going to go munching on junk food because then defeats the purpose of the sugar and all that. However, if let's say you eat at 12 and then at 3 and then at 8 or 7, that'll be within your 8 hours, right? And you eat enough to make sure that you do not go hungry. Otherwise, your body will slow its metabolism down and figure out another way to still stay functional while eating less. And it does defeat the purpose, by the way, 110%. This I know for a fact. All right. Also, when to eat less frequently as well would be based on your lifestyle. Some people just cannot be anywhere where they have access to food, where they could eat every 3 or 4 hours, right? Especially night shift people, such as nurses and doctors, they have a really bad eating schedule because they are super busy once they hit the ground. Seriously, they are like the most busiest people ever. And a hospital never closes and things happen all the time. I have a couple of clients who are nurses and they have a difficult time with the eating because they are so busy back and forth and they can't eat on the floor. It's just a lot of rules and regulations and it's a little crazy. But for those people, they have a little tougher and we have to just figure out how to maintain a stable eating environment. My suggesting is a shake in between. It may work. And anyway, I hope it helped you a little bit. Um, it's not an in-depth lesson because it's not based on just eating frequently. It's just this is a broad, you know, basic lesson because it's based on no snacking. Some people may have to snack, but people who have hypoglycemia. But again, if you have to snack on food, it should be whole foods and not potato chips, cookies, cakes, candies, ice cream. You want to eat cookies, cakes, ice cream, I would make as part of my meal. Um, I do it with my kids. They get to eat food, and if they want a little dessert, they can get a little dessert. But I try to have them avoid eating in between meals because it just creates bad eating habits. That's been my experience in the 24 years that I've been a personal trainer, well, almost 24 years, and the experience in my own life. All right, guys, I hope this has helped a little bit. Good news, I am hiring someone else to help me. So the graphics should be better on the YouTube. Hopefully it'll be more exciting. Maybe I'll do some little flash things. I don't know. We'll see how it works out. Bye.